Today is Sunday, June 7th, 2026, and today is National VCR Day, which means today is a good day to remember a time when watching a movie at home required a machine the size of a small suitcase and occasionally involved rewinding things. A concept that sounds increasingly ancient every year. And, oddly enough, today's stories all revolve around attention. The things people watch, the things people become obsessed with, and the mysteries they simply refuse to let go. Welcome to Wait, That's Random, This Day in History. I'm C.L. Burns, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and someone who apparently spends an unhealthy amount of time wandering through historical rabbit holes so you don't have to. On June 7, 1955, the $64,000 question premiered on television. And it's difficult to explain just how enormous this show became, because modern audiences live in a world with thousands of channels, streaming services, YouTube, TikTok, podcasts, and endless entertainment options. In 1955, television was still becoming a national obsession, and suddenly a game show arrived that turned ordinary people into celebrities. The premise was simple. Contestants answered increasingly difficult questions. The more they answered correctly, the more money they could win. And at the top sat the almost mythical prize, $64,000, which was an astonishing amount of money in 1955. People organized evenings around the show. Restaurants reportedly adjusted around broadcast times. Families gathered around televisions to watch contestants struggle through questions they themselves couldn't answer. What's fascinating to me is that the show wasn't really selling knowledge. It was selling suspense. Viewers imagined themselves in the chair. They played along from home. They argued about the answers. And for a while, America became completely captivated by watching people think, which honestly feels like a television concept we should probably bring back. And 20 years later, another piece of entertainment technology arrived that promised something revolutionary: the ability to watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. On June 7, 1975, Sony introduced the Betamax videocassette recorder. And at first glance, this probably sounds like one of the least exciting inventions in history: a videotape format. Great. But at the time, it felt revolutionary, because television had always operated on television schedule. If a show aired at 8 p.m., you watched it 8 p.m. If you missed it, you missed it. Betamax offered something new: control. People could record programs, pause them, save them, watch them later. Today, that's completely normal. In 1975, it felt like science fiction. And one thing I love about the Betamax story is that it's also one of history's most famous examples of being technically excellent and still losing, because many experts considered Betamax the better format. But eventually, VHS won the format war, which is one of those reoccurring historical lessons that keep appearing. The best technology doesn't always win. We just talked about that with FM radio not that long ago. Sometimes availability wins. Sometimes convenience wins. Sometimes timing wins. And sometimes history simply takes a different path than engineers expected. And speaking of stories people couldn't stop replaying, few mysteries have occupied public imagination longer than the one attached to a man known only as D.B. Cooper. On June 7th, 2021, the FBI publicly reaffirmed something many people had suspected for years. The man known as D.B. Cooper would probably never be identified. Now, technically, the hijacking itself happened in 1971, but the mystery remained alive for decades because the story sounds almost fictional. A man boards a commercial airliner, demands ransom money, receives it, then parachutes from the aircraft into darkness somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, and vanishes. No confirmed identity, no confirmed fate, no definitive solution. Just theories. Lots and lots of theories. What fascinates me is how much people love unsolved mysteries, especially mysteries with just enough clues to make solving them feel possible. Thousands of amateur investigators have spent years examining evidence, comparing suspects, reconstructing timelines, arguing over details. And even after decades, the story still attracts attention because human beings seem uniquely incapable of ignoring unanswered questions. We want endings. We want explanations. And D.B. Cooper stubbornly refuses to provide either. And after spending today's episode around television, entertainment, and stories of people couldn't stop talking about, it feels fitting to end with someone who made looking effortless into an art form. Born on June 7, 1917 in Steubenville, Ohio, Dean Martin became one of the most recognizable entertainers in America. And honestly, what made him unusual was how relaxed he seemed. Many performers work hard to appear charismatic. Dean Martin somehow made charisma look accidental. Before becoming famous, he worked a variety of jobs. He boxed, worked in steel mills, collected gambling bets, and generally lived a life that didn't obviously point toward becoming a major entertainment star. Then came music, then movies, then television, then the Rat Pack. And eventually Martin became one of the defining entertainers of his era. One thing I kept noticing while reading about him was how carefully constructed his effortless image actually was. The relaxed style, the casual jokes, the easygoing attitude. It all looked natural. But behind the scenes, he was an extremely professional performer who understood audiences remarkably well, which might be one of the oldest tricks in entertainment, making difficult things look easy. Something I kept circling back to while working through June 7th was how much attention reshapes history. A game show becomes a national obsession because people can't stop watching. A videotape machine changes entertainment because people want control over what they watch. An unsolved mystery survives for decades because people can't stop wondering. And maybe curiosity itself is one of humanity's most powerful forces. We keep looking, we keep asking, we keep trying to figure things out, even when the answers never arrive. Anyway, that was the strange collection of human curiosity June 7th left behind. And before I leave you alone with your thoughts, here's today's oddly appropriate quote. People are more interested in the strange than the beautiful. Edgar Wallace. If you'd like to hear more of my work or explore the books and projects I've been a part of, you can find it all at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I appreciate you stopping by. I'll see you tomorrow.